lot of really awesome people over the years in real life via social media. Hi, Qadirah.
Hey,
Beautiful.
hi.
So I'm just explaining like why I'm doing my What's Hannenin series here.
hmm
I want people to get to know all the amazing people that I've met over. What the hell? That
It's
never
okay.
happens. Um, and it was probably spam. But anyways, one of the things that had started during the Black Lives Matter protests was people were, interviewing a lot of Black entertainers and content creators and activists. And of course that stopped because it was a month of work that people didn't want to do. So I want to keep it going. I'm not just going to interview Black people as that What's Hannenin series goes on, but I definitely want to keep a lot of the conversation that we've been having about this stuff going with people that can speak on it. And so that's definitely going to be Black folk and awesome allies. So I'm going to have those people on definitely
hmm
first and foremost. So Qadirah, welcome.
Thank
Qadirah
you.
is a New York City-based actress, activist, small business owner, and executive producer of Viral. So you can follow them on Viral Debates here on IG.
Yes.
And I really wanted to interview Qadirah. Qadirah and I discussed on Viral Debates classism in Black America.
Yes.
And I really wanted to interview Qadirah because I'm like, one, she's gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
I know, is it shallow? I don't care. Also, all of the attributes that I told you guys as a fellow actress in New York City, as a small business owner, I'd love to hear more about that and what it's like executive producing Viral. Such ambition. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, stop sleeping on, these amazing people that I know that a lot of people are still, unaware of. So
Yeah.
welcome, Qadirah, and tell us a little bit about yourself. Anything you want to discuss?
I'm shy.
I know.
Okay, so I will say that Viral has started because I like having these conversations just like you. And I feel like it's important to have the conversations, the hard conversations that people don't like to have, I guess, on display. So Viral Debates is pretty much a series where we talk about everything Black, everything relating to Black education, Black economics, Black politics. And people will try to say, like, oh, it's not a race thing in a lot of conversations. But I feel like race always comes to play because America was built on racism. And so it's like you can never not talk about race. It can even be as simple as buying a car. Like, it's always a race thing. It doesn't matter what, in which way you put it, every conversation involves race. So that's what Viral is. Viral is a show that talks about race amongst us, and obviously getting outside opinions and things of that sort about like the things that happen in our community and why they're happening. And so I came up with that idea maybe 2 years ago, but I finally produced it this year. And I'm also a small business owner. I have a lash and jewelry company, and I also do financial planning. So I help people with like budgeting and all sorts of things like that. So like I help people with, like making sure they save, making sure they budget according to their income properly with my blog called Brilliant Girl Finance. And that's me.
Wow, awesome. That's a lot. So,
hmm
and you can tell us your age if you like. I know you're in your 20s, right? Early 20s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm 25. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing to have all
hmm
that. But one thing that I always talk about with my husband and my students as well, I teach theater as well.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and one of the things that I always talk about with them is the hustle of the native New Yorker.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but the hustle is just, it's unprecedented. Anywhere you go,
Yes.
you'll never meet, and especially the Black people here.
Yes.
Especially the Black people here. I know most of the actors I know were born and raised in New York City. Most of the Black
hmm
actors that I know, right?
Right.
Whereas a lot of the white actors that I know are from all over, right? But it's like, it's really hard here.
hmm
And so you see a lot that the Black actors are from New York because one, people are always looking for that New York aesthetic, but also they just are a little bit more hyped to the game. You know what I'm saying? Just a little, you know, I've talked with a lot of the New York actors I work with about like how they felt growing up in New York made them sort of fast, you know, not fast just sexually, but advanced and, you know what I'm saying? But they were like, it's fast. Cause you know, I was saying, where I grew up, you know, the hood shuts down at like 8 because all the stores close and the lights are out. You know, there's not a lot going on. People might be on the corner or whatever, on the block. But in New York, it's like, you know, it keeps going. It keeps going. So can you tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in New York?
Yeah, I think I definitely agree that like we are advanced. I could definitely say I don't connect. I don't have any like cousins in New York. I only have a sibling and that's it. And he's older than me. So I definitely can say that the cousins outside of New York that I have, it's very rare that we relate and we can be the same age. It's very rare that we can relate because these people are like, not to like, you know, not to shun them, but they are not up to speed with me. A lot of things that I was doing at 17, 16, my cousins were still like playing with Barbie dolls. So I do agree that in New York, we're kind of fast paced. We kind of get hip to things really easily. But I can say for me, like I definitely grew up in like a hustler's town. I'm from Brooklyn specifically. So somebody's always selling something, doing something. You know, growing up, you will always see like people come in a hair shop, giving out CDs. You'll see like people selling waters on the street. Somebody's always doing something. So I feel like for me, when I would like watch my grandmother sell things on the Parkway during Labor Day, I kind of just was like, oh, like you could buy all this stuff wholesale for a cheap price and then resell it for a higher price and, you know, make money. Like, that's great. So I was even telling like my business mentor, like that really inspired me. Like, I didn't know that like you can just do that and call it a business and then you're like a business owner and you're making all this money. So I think growing up here definitely made me interested in a lot of things. I think for me specifically, I have so many passions because I grew up in New York City. I'm not like intrigued by one thing. I'm intrigued by like at least 5, and I'm genuinely passionate in all of it. I'm not just doing it just to see which one works. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, I played myself a few times around native New Yorkers. You know, they're like, "Where are you? Like, what are you?" I'm like, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm like, you know, I definitely felt there could be times where I came off as elitist. You know what I'm saying? By being like, about like, why do you guys do it like this? You know, and then it was right. Yeah, that was early. It was early. I'm off that. But I feel like I came off that way. And I had like, my favorite people in New York are New Yorkers. You know what I'm saying? Native New Yorkers.
Like from what borough, though? Like, we're not all the same.
Come on. What
We're not all the same.
Dang. We are not the same. You know, that's hard. I would say Harlem, Queens, and Brooklyn. You know, I know Harlem's not a borough, but Harlem, Queens, Brooklyn. You know, I also have friends like from Yonkers. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like I feel like they really show you love and they're really patient. Whereas other people would be like, get out of this space. You know what I'm saying? They would not let you back into space because they're like, I don't like that energy. You know, they were like, okay, she's a little slow, right? Like she does. You know, I really was like, you know, I learned a lot in the past decade that I've been here. So
where do you live now? In Jersey?
I live in New Jersey. Yeah. Okay. And that's a whole nother, you know.
What part of Jersey do you live in, if you don't mind me asking? What part?
I don't know what, I mean,
I
don't know what it's like 30 minutes away from the city, without traffic. So it's not far. But it's like it's a smaller town, but I don't know, like, I know it's not the shore. Okay. I don't know if it's like north or south, like, I don't know. But yeah, and that's been interesting as well because, you know, we were talking about, the election and Kamala Harris and her identity and people really being fixated on that. And is she black? Is she Indian? And, you know, why not both? You know, that's
Yeah.
how I feel about it. People can be
Yeah.
a plethora of things.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I live around a lot of like Indian people myself too, actually.
Mhm.
So that's why I feel like I definitely see that they feel that we're not the same. You know, even though you know, generally you know, they're nice neighbors, right? But they have you know, a lot of gatherings with each other, you know.
Mhm.
Um, that I haven't been invited to. I don't need to be invited to, but you know. Um, and there's a few black people that live like in my area too, and like, you know, you say hi and bye, but I don't know.
Right. Okay.
It's not like neighborly, you know.
Oh no.
Okay, um so yeah, do you have any thoughts about that? The Kamala Harris?
Um, Honestly, I don't know too much about her. I know that like, let me take this one out. I know that like she pretty much had a lot of like bad comments when she was running for president, right? She pretty much wasn't she the one running at some point, and now she's appointed as vice president, right? So when she was running, there was like a lot of things that came up saying that like she implemented a lot of harsh, I guess, policies that would like put black mothers, single mothers in jail, and she is for private prisons, and so. I mean, despite her, whatever she is, Black, Indian, whatever she wants to say she is, I think that as a person, whoever believes in private prisons, as a person that has family members in jail, I think that's just horrible. The private prisons really basically implement slavery all over again, and I think anybody who's for that is also pushing the white agenda like in from the backside, like from the behind the scenes. So I think number one, that just rubs me wrong. But what I was seeing on Twitter was the fact that we do need to acknowledge that the if she is voted into office, if Joe Biden is voted into office, the first ever we're talking about Kamala Harris for the person that commented. So the first we should acknowledge that the first vice president might be ever will be a black she would be the first black woman vice president. So I think that's great to have, but I think we need to kind of I'm at a point where like I don't want to keep acknowledging these first everything. Like I kind of want to get to a point where like we have value. We have quality people in our office and in our government, whether they are black or white. And I think the fact that we're just acknowledging, oh, like she's a black or she's an Indian, vice president, woman, whatever. I think that just shows how far behind we are with the topic of like racism and totally and like entirely. So, I mean, as far as her actual what she is, um, I used to be a person that used to say Indians were black people. And when I want to be ignorant, I say that because I just say it for people to have like just like you have the same skin complexion as me. So I try when I want to be ignorant, I will tell like you know you are not a white person. You are not above me. But ideally, I don't like forcing anybody who does not want to be black on them. Like if you don't want to be associated with black, then you don't have to be. But please do not use POC at any given moment when you feel like it benefits you. That's where I have a problem with it. I think some news articles are saying she's Indian, some news articles are saying she's black. The fact is she is both. I think somebody just said in Trinidad they call that a Dougla. And from what I learned in school, that's a derogative statement. It's pretty much
Oh.
a black and Indian mixed in the Caribbean. So that's exactly what she is. She is a Douglas. She's a black and Indian mixed in Jamaica, mixed from Jamaica, or her parents are mixed from Jamaica. So, I mean, it's not that big of a deal for her to be black or Indian, but the fact is she is both, and it's okay to be both. I think, though, she will push forward the idea that she's more Indian than she is black, which is kind of sad because she is like a lighter skin complexion. And I think until we get like a full black American in office, and I'm not saying that a black Caribbean is bad at all because I'm Jamaican as well. But until we get like a full black American in office, I'm not that excited. And until we get somebody of quality, I'm still not that excited. So I'm happy, and I'm happy my little girl can see that, but I'm not that excited about it. Because at the end of the day, I know that her and Joe Biden, they're not the best, but they do still push on this oppressing white agenda. So that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. And I definitely agree with a lot of your points, definitely. And you mentioned your daughter. So I've seen that you've posted a few times, you know, I've seen some of the things you've said about your daughter on social media, such as I believe she's biracial.
No, she's Puerto Rican. Her dad is Puerto Rican. So she's
Oh,
black and
okay.
Puerto Rican. Yeah.
Okay. So multi-ethnic.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So do you feel like that that combination of things is she going to face a lot of questions or pushback in the various communities that she's from?
Yeah, I think if she does, it's kind of just like tiring because it's like, come on, like people have been mixing ethnicities for from the beginning of time. But I think she will because the bottom line is I'm a darker complexion, my daughter's light skin, and she looks like a Latina woman, like a Hispanic woman. Like she doesn't look like, like I mean, not woman, but you know what I'm saying, like a little
Yeah.
girl. Like she
Yeah.
she does not look like me, I think, right
Mhm.
now. So
Mhm.
I think when people, number one, see her name, because the bottom line is I grew up Muslim. So my name is Arabic. My daughter's name is Arabic. So the bottom line is when people see her name and then they see her mom and then they see her, they're probably going to be confused, which they shouldn't be because I went to Puerto Rico. And when I went to Puerto Rico last year, I've seen only people that look like me. I've seen
Mhm.
darker skinned guys with dreads trying to talk to me as I'm walking down the block from
Mhm.
CVS in Puerto Rico. So people shouldn't be surprised, but they will act surprised because we're in New York. And the bottom line is, as mixed as New
Mhm.
York is segregated. So
Mhm. Yeah.
I think even now, like just like people look at her and they're like, "Oh, are you her mom?" Like that's the first
Mhm.
question they ask. And
Mhm.
I know I look young and I am young, but I know they're asking because we don't look alike.
Mhm.
And she's like, "Mommy," and they're like, "Are you her mom?" Like you just heard her say, "Mommy." But I think the
Right.
bottom line is she will have she won't have pushback. She'll have privilege,
Mhm.
and she will only get pushback when I show up because I don't look like her and
Mhm.
I'm darker skinned. So
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
that alone is kind of like a challenge, but I've already been talking to her about like race and how that plays into her life and things of that sort. So, I mean, even now, like me and my mom was discussing what color dolls do we get? Because obviously black dolls are important. It wasn't a thing. I mean, until I was like a little girl, the Brandy doll came out. But Brandy is my skin complexion. So we have all these books, we have all these dolls, and they're dark skinned. And the bottom line is like, yes, this is a black girl, but my daughter's not dark skinned. And so she does need to see her own representation. And that does that mean we buy her the white doll? No. So I think that's the problem that like I'm learning with her. Like black people come in all skin tones. Like there should be a light skin doll, a middle colored doll, a darker, and then like a whole spectrum of shades. We shouldn't have to choose between a white doll and a black doll. So all of my
Yes.
daughter's dolls are darker skin, and she doesn't really relate to them, and it's not her fault. So like I think about things like that I didn't think I'll have to think about, and I know that she will have to face. But the bottom line is like when it comes to color, like I'm big on like we are one people. Like I'm not, I know that there's colorism in our community, but I don't try to like, push that agenda in any way or form. Like we are one people of black people, and yes, darker skinned people get more hit for our skin color, but the bottom line is we come from different places. I have a best friend who's my skin complexion, and she's fully Honduran. This girl comes out speaking Spanish and you're like, what is going on? Like, where did she come from? So I think it's just diversity that people need to learn at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think as time goes on, and you know, my husband being white and our children would be biracial, you know,
Hmm.
this is, I feel the exact same way that you feel about it.
Right.
They shouldn't just be the option of white doll and like usually very dark skinned dolls. Also, I feel like as time goes on, we need to keep the pressure on people and be unforgiving about people, you know, misunderstanding nationality and ethnicity and race and being disrespectful about it. I know as a teacher, I teach a plethora of ethnicities and nationalities. And one thing I always emphasize is I do not tolerate bullying, point blank period, about anything. And, you know, sometimes I'll get students younger students who will like make fun of a Spanish speaking student, you know, because they don't pronounce the H in the words they say, you know,
And
because they don't do that in the Spanish language. That's why.
Right.
And I'm
and
like, that's awesome. That's cool. That's not a bad thing. Like, let's not allow this idea that you can make fun of that. You need to admire that.
Yeah, and I was gonna say Jamaicans do the same thing. We don't pronounce the H in words, so
Okay,
that's just like a Caribbean. That to
Yeah.
me, that probably stems from like some type of history in the Caribbean. And it's funny that you bring up just being a teacher because I used to teach too, and I had taught like the 6th grade class. And one time, literally, this was in East New York, Brooklyn. It was the Black 6th graders against the Spanish 6th graders, and I thought about it like, where would my daughter fall in this? Because she wouldn't have a place in any way, because like the Spanish 6th graders, they all spoke Spanish. My daughter does not speak Spanish. So where would she fall in this? Because she looks like the people on this side, but she resonates more with the people on this side.
Right.
Yeah. So like I just thought about that, and I was like literally 2 years ago, and I'm like, this is kind of sad, because you know that like racism and colorism is rooted in our society so bad that you have 6th graders in a classroom in 2018 arguing about it, and it doesn't make any sense.
Jesus.
So I don't know. I feel like as much as we are at a huge standstill on our progress, I think there is some progress from within, but the bottom line is the oppressors, they're still like, they still have this agenda. It's rooted. It's not like, you know, like nobody's taking the accountability to erase these things. Like it's rooted in education. I see it with like special education as well. It's just something that like I kind of fear, like, is it gonna go away before my time? Like, I don't know. So yeah.
I gotta tell you, you know, even though I grew up in the hood and I grew up very poor, I went to a private Catholic school on scholarship, and it was predominantly white. And I really thought growing up that when I became an adult, I wouldn't feel the racism that I felt anymore. Like, I really thought that. I was like, maybe I'm just misunderstanding things, because my teachers are telling me that racism is like something from the past and or in the South, and that I'm not experiencing it here. That's what I was taught. And as I became an adult and it became increasingly clear, I swear to God, I just kept looking around like, is somebody gonna... I remember one time, a guy in my class, I'll never forget, he was talking about a character, right? Because I did a lot of theater. He's talking about this character, and he says, nobody likes this guy, like black people. Right? I swear to God, he said that. And I mean, the spirit, the ancestors lifted me up from my seat. I was like, what the... You know, because I was so tired of the microaggressions. And this was when Obama was in office. Okay? But supposed to be the greatest years of my life. Right? According to many, right? They weren't. They weren't. But, you know, I was like, why is this acceptable? Why is this, you know, anti-blackness, anti-black racism so acceptable? And, you know, I just finally had to start speaking out about it, because I did spend so much time in PWI spaces, and I'm like, I can't let another black kid experience that. I can't. I have to speak up, you know, because I don't see anyone else doing it. They don't bother, you know, because it's a lot of work and research to be able to articulate these things, because the naysayers are ready to come at you with everything they got. And you got to really be on your, you know, game. And, you know, just being confident that, like, asking for, you know, humanity. I mean, I don't ask for humanity. That's number one. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm not asking for humanity. I'm not asking for equality. But you better hurry up. But you better,
Yeah.
but you better hurry up and make it happen.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I really feel like every day I'm like why? Like how could you like genuinely not like somebody because the color of their skin? Like I'm really lost. Like
Hmm.
how does that happen?
Right.
How do you formulate this entire identity by color? Like are you gonna tell me you would never buy a green car just because it's green? Like this could be the flyest car, smartest car, genuine, nice, like, and you just, so I think about it on the simple terms like that. And when I break it down so simply like that, that's when I really know that like it's no reason. Like this is rooted in their minds, and the white people that refuse to accept that it is rooted are they're the problem. So, and it's not just people, it's institutions who will refuse and act like, oh no, like they'll gaslight the
Yes.
shit out of the entire black community. Oh no, we're not racist. And no,
Right.
like it's like, no, you are. Like what the fuck?
Hmm.
Like we're telling you you are. Like it's
Right.
clear. So
Hmm.
I don't know. I really like have to like reposition my mind a lot. And I've come into a space like you said you grew up in a predominantly like PWI space. For me, like I grew up in a predominantly like black neighborhood, black schools. But what I was basically saying is that I pretty much did not really like associate or interact with other races at all, like even to this day.
Mm.
So
Oh, wow.
I feel like my only times where I have interacted with other races is when I have had jobs and occasionally on campus. And so it just goes to tell you that like my only encounter with white people is when I had to work. And it's just like,
Wow.
it sounds like the story of like, some person born in 1940 something. Like the only time I got to interact with a white man is when I got to go to work. And that's
Mm.
really that
Mm.
was my experience. So I'm
Mm.
at work with like white girls and they're talking this way and da da da, they're acting this way, saying certain things, and I'm just like, what is wrong with you guys? Like something is really off with you all. And I think it took for me to hit like mid college for me to like really see, okay, I really am affected by race, I guess racist, institutionalized racism and systemic
Yes.
racism, because certain
Yes.
things was happening to me that I didn't set myself up for. Like I'm going to school, I'm buying a car, I'm 19, I have a business. I'm setting myself up for success. Yeah, I'm getting so much pushback and I'm questioning like, why am I getting all this pushback? I should be getting rewarded and I'm not.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so like that's when I was like, okay, like something's in the air, something's going on. And I'm like,
Yes.
nah, like it's not set up for me to win. I have to like,
Yes.
like I have to jump through
Yes.
hoops. So that's where I
Yes.
really feel like that's where
Yep.
I'm at too right now. And that's where I'm like, okay, it is a problem. And I'm not going to be the person to make white people understand that there is a problem. I think that's where we are right now as a community. We're like forcing people to understand, like with the murals everywhere, with the Black Lives Matter everywhere. We're trying to force people to get the point. They're not getting the fucking point.
Right.
So
Right.
moving on. And like
Right.
that's where I'm at with it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, you can only imagine having grown up, I believing this idea. And then when I got to middle school, um, a lot of the white kids that I hung out with started to only hang out with other white kids. And I thought it was
Wow.
because they wanted to hang out with boys, and
Uh,
I was like, why are they leaving us? It was me and like a kooky group of girls, of all different races and ethnicities. And we'd be like, why are they leaving us to hang out with the boys, And then, in high school, a lot of that racism that people teach their children, I had to experience I went to an all-girls school. So there was a good handful of racist white girls there. And I was friends with a few of them,
mhm.
and they would say very racist things, like you watch too much BET, or I swear to God, like I was told you watch too much BET.
What?
Just jokes about black eyes and everything, black, 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 and I would try to behave in a way that I was like, maybe if I behave just like them, right? If I behave just like Becky, like, she won't notice that, like, I'm blocked, right? And that's why I call them blocks. Like, I'm blocked, right? And I'm like, I tried it. And I tried it until I got to grad school. And I was like, no, these motherfuckers just don't give a fuck. Straight the fuck up. And you fucking lucky you don't go to school with me now. I'm telling you that right now. Because I couldn't articulate myself. And what y'all did was racial bullying. Y'all sit there to this day and be like, oh, she got an attitude. Oh, she this, and that. I don't give okay? I can be this, and that. I shouldn't have to behave like a Black woman who grew up in the suburbs and had 2 parents their whole lives, married and all that, yada, yada, to be able to work and get a job and make money for my family. And I've been fired from so many jobs because white people around me were like, I don't like you. I don't like you. You're not letting me do my thing that I do. You're not letting me play the victim, because you will never play the victim around me. That's first and foremost. No, you won't.
Yeah, no,
okay? So, you know, and I've been fired and and it's like, at this point, I'm like, you got to put me on disability. You got to put me on disability. Because apparently being a Black woman who's not going to put up with racial abuse makes me disqualified to have a job in America. I gotta work on that. I don't have to behave. I don't have to have a PhD. I don't have to have glasses and a nose ring and colorful hair for you to fucking respect that I'm professional, but I don't want to interact with you or be your friend day one necessarily, and I'm not going to put up with your bull. Point blank, period.
Yes, I agree with everything you said. Like, I feel like I haven't, my ego is so, you know, there that I've been in jobs, like I used to work for Red Bull, and Red Bull, predominantly white girls, and if it wasn't for my Black friend, I wouldn't have the job, like one Black friend. And it just so happened that my one Black friend grew up in Connecticut, and she went to an all-girls school that was predominantly white. So she was already like, oh my God, like, you need to hire my friend Qadirah. Like, that was her whole vibe. So I got the job because of that. So I get this job, and it's just so hilarious. Like, I'm going to tell you a quick story, but before I tell you the story, I'm going to tell you how my boss, white girl, she was dating, she loved Black guys. Like, she always dated Black guys. And at some point, I felt like that was my only way to connect with her. So we would often talk about the guys that we date. And it was just so funny that her boyfriend and my boyfriend at the time, both of them, their names were Brandon. And so we would relate, like, by talking about our Brandons. And then, of course, it's kind of odd because she's in an interracial relationship. So I'm just like, I'm looking at her like, what is your obsession with Black guys? Like, she always had a new Black boyfriend. So she moved, and pretty much another girl came in as my manager. And this is a, like, white girl from Texas, went to LA for a few, came to New York, got a job, and now she's my boss. And she's just like this huge surfer. And so she's like, oh, you know, we need to connect with the surfers community in Brooklyn. I'm like, girl, there is not a surfers community in Brooklyn. Like, what are we talking about? And so because I answered to her like that, all of a sudden I was questioning her authority, and she would just, you know, just give me so much pushback. So it was one time where, you know, my coworker was supposed to show up for our shifts because we were always working pairs. And my coworker, we had an early shift, like 6 a.m. She did not come. She did not show up. And I could not start my shift without my partner. That is the rules. So my boss called us in because she was like, you know, you guys were late. You guys did not start your shift. What happened? And I said, you know, Siobhan did not show up. She goes, oh, well, you should have left her, because the bottom line is it's your fault that you guys did not start your shift. It's my fault that we didn't start our shift because the other girl didn't show up. And of course, the other girl was white and she was late. So I felt that there was a microaggression. The Black person, was being blamed for the white girl's lateness, and I was on time. And that really pissed me off. And that's when I was like, okay, I will never. And I was 19 and I was making good money. What is minimum wage now? I was making at 19 years old. So I was just like, okay, I don't care how much good this money is. I will go broke and I will stay at my mother's house because I'm still in college and I can afford to not have to deal with you and your microaggressions. So that was just like one situation where I was like, you know what? Any job where I'm put in a position where I have to compromise myself, I'm not doing it. And from there, I've never took a job where I had to compromise myself. And I'm going to tell you that a lot of the jobs that I did work, they did have a lot of Black people in it, and I did have a lot of Black supervisors, and it be them too. It be the Black supervisors,
Yes.
like trying to push this, oppression onto me, like the white people, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? And then, so it's so funny because at the end of one of my only jobs in my life, only real office jobs, my boss gave me so much pushback. And at the end of we had to show results. And I had the highest results. And she had at one point she had apologized to me because she's like, I gave you all this attitude and you were doing your job. And it's like, yeah, girl, you was doing it to me because you felt like you had to impress master is what I say. So I just feel like the oppression is everywhere, at every neck and cranny and turn, everywhere you turn. If it's not a white person, it's a coon Black person doing it. And it's like, how do you deal with that every day?
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I thank God for my husband because he helped me, allow me to, take a break. And, when I was fired in favor of a white person, he's like, take a break from having to be in those environments 24/7 your entire life and focus on your creativity, and I'm like, thank God I can have a moment to do that because I think that, and it's actually, we'll talk about this the next time you and I chat, because I know we're going to be talking all the time, but weathering is a condition that Black people go through because of the close proximity they live in with their oppressors in a white supremacist, Black, anti-Black racist society, where basically our bodies will literally, and you'll see it all the time around, Harlem, 125th and stuff. A lot of people hunchback, a lot of people with hip problems and in wheelchairs. Our bodies deteriorate rapidly from this racial abuse. And that's one of the reasons why I won't tolerate it. But I'll send you that article because it's
that's
really comprehensive article. And I bring it up whenever I see my doctors, because I'm like, I'm reading medical journals and medical articles. So don't get it twisted. We're not playing the same games.
Right. And it's funny that you say that too, because we talk about this on one of our viral episodes. It says, the price of being Black, basically is what we talked about, and how is it bad to be Black? I think my title that I put on YouTube is being Black bad for your health? And so we talk about how there's inequalities in Black health and things of that sort. And I bring up the fact that I had preeclampsia at 20 when I had my daughter, and this is a condition that Beyonce has had, and I think Serena Williams has had, and this is permanently healthy Black women having these problems during childbirth. And I started doing Googling and all of that. And I took a class called Performing Blackness in college. And we studied how your body has body memory. And so let's say you are a direct descendant of a slave, which I am. I don't know if you are, but I am. And your slave member, was working really hard and things of that sort. Your ancestry has body memory, which means generations of generations will feel the body memory that your ancestors possessed in the past. So basically, women being pregnant, working the slave fields, although we've never had to do that, if you do experience a little bit of stress, you might have an episode where your health is crazy, and your health is in jeopardy. So this is how perfectly healthy Black people die out of nowhere. And this is how perfectly healthy Black moms died giving birth. And so I think I agree with you, with the weathering as well, because it's that type of body memory and stress on top of microaggressions, on top of blunt, direct racism. It's I am mentally not a sane person. So why do you want to keep testing me? I'm not here. And I'm not here because of you. So why do you want to continuously make me mentally ill to where I'm going to literally off myself? So I don't know, I just feel it's so much, and I love that you brought that up, because I do want to see the article about that, because it just it pushes my agenda even further. So I don't know if I told you, but I got my real estate license when I was 18. And so the point of me doing it was because I was I really want to create push a certain number of people, Black people, into a community where we can have a community and be homeowners. And I never really followed up with it because I had so much other things going on. But you telling me stuff like that makes me feel okay, I want to reinstate my license, which I already was planning to do this year. And I want to push that agenda again because it's like, I don't need to deal with that. My
Yep.
daughter doesn't need to deal with that. My mom
Yep.
doesn't need to deal with that.
Yep.
So, and why do they have the free right to just move in across the street? Like, that's not, that's not okay.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're coming to the last few minutes of the live here. So I want to bring it to, I want to talk real quick about the Trey Songz thing.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'm not going to ask whether you believe or disbelieve, I tend to believe women when they collectively have similar stories about things, about the character of a person. I don't know what specific acts he's done, but it's pretty clear that he is entitled and lacks sexual discipline to me. But what do you think about his interactions or correspondence with this accuser, the woman that had relations with him, and she calls him the N-word. She says, "Good night, nigga." Right? She's like, "Good night, nigga." What do you think about just generally, like, why that happens and why his response wasn't, "Oh my God, I can't believe you just said that," like why he just accepted it and why that's kind of been accepted?
Yeah, I think that, like, I feel like Black men, they kind of become, because they have this fetish of like exotic foreign women, they kind of like let certain things pass. I think we talked about this a little bit too on our viral episode, how like Black men are the gatekeepers to white women being disrespectful, and or I guess these other non-Black women being disrespectful and things of that sort. And so because they are the gatekeepers, I mean, unless you're in a lesbian situation, like, you're not going to allow other people around you to have like sexual relationships with, like, I'm talking about Black women. So like, this is why I said that Black men are the gatekeepers, because most of the time they would say things like, "Oh, I don't like Black women," or they're too loud," or whatever. And we talked about that too. And I don't know if this makes sense, but what I'm trying to say is that I think the fact that she said it means that, number one, he was already comfortable with women like her saying that to him. I think not just celebrities, I see it. Like, I'm pretty sure, and not just white women, but my Spanish friends, they say the N-word crazy. I mean, even I've had to check like my daughter's father a couple times. Like, I don't know who you think you are, but you're not Puerto Rican. You're not, to me, you're not an Afro. You don't have any Afro heritage. Like, I know Puerto Ricans who have Afro heritage. You
Right.
don't. So you don't get to say the N-word. And even the Puerto Ricans that have Afro heritage, I don't want to hear it from you guys either, because it's an American term, a Black American term. So the bottom line is, you're not Black American, I don't want to hear you say it. That's just bottom line. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to chase after like a Caribbean or African Black person saying it, because they've been probably called the N-word themselves being here. But the bottom line is, I don't want to hear you say it. So I think that Trey Songz allowed that plenty of times. That's number one. But number two, I just love how he made the song foreign, and that foreign, and they have to have that foreign, that exotic girl, and you have 50 Cent in the news saying that we don't look exotic and we're not pretty and we're angry and we're loud and we always got something to say. It's always these men who have to face these allegations from the other people. And I just feel like it's like low-key a slap in the face. And I don't think that the girl is lying, because I personally know girls. Well, I know one girl who said that she dealt with Trey Songz personally, like from Queens. And she never went into depth about what happened sexually, but she happened to be Puerto Rican. She happened to have like work done. And she said something on the lines like he would invite her over whenever he was in New York. So I'm not surprised. And I've honestly been in a situation like that too, with like other guys that I dated, maybe like one or two celebrities that I've talked to. They would be very aggressive with like, "Oh, like, come to my hotel room." You'll show up. You're thinking like, "Okay, we're here to chill." And they're trying to like push that like agenda onto you. So I mean, I'm not on her side because she said that word. I could care less about what happens with that situation. But I believe her, and I think Trey Songz, he is just jokes. Like, you know, they on Twitter they said something like black men, people who do it usually be like, you know, they turn to God all of a sudden. You know, the devil's after me, and I'm not gonna feed into
Yes,
devilish activities. It's like
yes,
they always do that, and I just be like, wow,
right.
now you want to call on God's name? Like,
Mhm,
how dare you in the midst of that?
mhm,
And I also think it sucks because Trey Songz became, you know, this activist on Instagram a couple months ago, and he
mhm.
was posting all this good stuff, and now here he is being blatantly, like literally allowing this girl to say the N word to him, and he's trying to prove that he's not what he didn't do what she says, and it simply ignores that the word is in his own screenshot. So it's like you can tell, you know, it's
Right.
I don't really know how to call it, but it's one dimensional. It's like, okay, I'm a black man. I'm going to fight for black rights. I'm going to kick all the racist people down, but I'm going to still fuck that white girl, and I'm going to let her call me nigga, and I'm going to let her make sure that you, as a black woman, know that she's better than you or whatever. Like, I don't really know how to call it, but that's the sense that I get, and I don't really know how to break that, like, problem down.
Mhm. I know in my own personal life, black male relatives and friends, most of them that I know are date interracially, are married interracially, predominantly with white women. And that there's definitely always been, I've never seen from men in these types of relationships, a love or respect for black women. I've never
Right.
seen it. I've literally been around guys like this, literally won't even address my presence when I'm in the room, you know? So like I'd be somewhere because of a relative, and like him and all of his like friends, like no one would even just acknowledge that I was there. Cause like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna bring? You know, your goofy dark skin behind, like who cares? You know, big bone bitch or whatever. You know, I don't know what they're thinking, you know? But it's always been like, let's put these other women on a pedestal. And I've never done that. You know, my husband is white. I don't enter black spaces and be like, you know, I don't do that. I enter any space I enter, I talk about race and race relations and how we're going to change the world. Point blank, period. So what you think? This man hasn't heard it? And black people will get more upset that I'm talking about this stuff than my husband ever has,
Mm-hmm.
ever has, and ever will. Because
Mm-hmm.
he gonna listen to what I say, point blank, period, the end, in the discussion. And he gonna learn and he gonna grow, or you're not gonna
Mm-hmm.
be around me.
Yeah.
That's all. You have the option. You have
Mm-hmm.
the option. Okay? I keep a
Yeah.
suitcase packed. You
Yeah.
change your mind, you know? But my time for, you know, I've worked, as you can see and anyone can see, I've worked very hard to assimilate into this society. So don't tell me that I'm not being professional in these workspaces where you want to fire me. Don't tell me that, because I have a lot of white people who growing up saw me grow up in the foster care system, parents addicted to crack cocaine, and get A's from kindergarten to 12th grade, and will vouch for my
Mm-hmm.
professionalism.
Right. And I
So,
think that's crazy. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
That's so
So it
crazy.
really is, and they were getting away with it in New York. It's still a lot of nonprofits. Y'all need to clean it up. It's a lot of white people speaking for black people. You don't get paid to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get paid to do that. You know, I had an older white woman friend. We're no longer friends. Surprise, surprise. She took me to see Tim Wise when I was 19, 20, you know? And I was like, why is this guy talking about my problems? And y'all
Mm-hmm.
all paid him 100, 200 bucks. I can get on stage right now and tell you what's up. But y'all don't
Yeah.
want to hear it from us. Because
Yeah.
it's got to be coded and it's got to be curated and catered to your, you know, liking.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what healing and learning and growing is about.
Right.
You know, and it's unbecoming that you cannot get along with people. That's what you need to understand. And I've told my husband this. That is an unbecoming cultural trait that y'all seem to have.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot get along with other people. I'm not
Right.
impressed. I don't want to be in. I used to want to be friends with white people that only wanted to be around white people. Gag.
Mm-hmm.
Gag.
Right. Yeah.
I can never go back and get that time back. But if I could, I wouldn't have talked to Nan, one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my husband knows this, and he's like, well, thank God. He's always like, thank God that you were that way, because we wouldn't have met. I'm like, you damn Skippy, Because I'd have been like,
Yeah.
curve,
Mhm.
curve,
Mhm. Right.
run. Because it's just been too much, you know. But
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, too. A lot of that was from white women. I'm just being honest. I've not had a ton of white men be egregious towards me the way white women felt the privilege to be
To
able
do.
to do.
That's.
Including my husband's mother, who, that's another story for another day, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But I laid it on her, too, just like I would a damn stranger. Because at the end of the day, like I told her, you ain't my mama.
Mhm.
You ain't my mama. And I'm not your
Mhm.
son. Don't get it twisted. You know,
Yeah.
and to this day, they don't have a relationship at all. He hasn't seen them in years. Because what I say goes.
Mhm.
And I'm in control. You know what I'm saying? Like, what I say goes. I said what I
Mhm.
said.
Right.
You don't know how to act.
Yeah.
That's trashy. So we
Yeah.
don't need to be around that. Step
Yeah.
your game up. It's that
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah, that's right. And I feel like that's how people need to be. Like people I've tried to be like very humble, very soft spoken about certain things. And I've had to do the same to we call them higher ups whenever you work at a nonprofit. The higher ups. You
Yep.
have to have a meeting with the higher ups. And the higher ups are what? White. So when I have those meetings, I'm like, you mean nothing to me, like literally. Like I'm unfortunately the same way you look down on me, I look really down on you,
Yep.
and you're not gonna make me feel odd about that. Like I do that because you alone try to you try to belittle me in ways that I don't do the same to you. I always give you the same respect. So
Yep.
because you don't have that truth and that character and that class, you don't just get put on a pedestal because you're white. Like
Thank
no,
you.
like that
Right.
makes no sense.
Right.
Like no, like actually you're ghetto. Like you're what I would call
Thank you.
ghetto. So
That's
that's
ghetto.
how. Yeah, that's very ghetto. Like that's not professionalism at all. So yeah, that's where I'm
I
at with
had
it.
a black male family member ask me not to speak about race in front of his white significant other. Yes, he did. And finally just cut me off and was like, you're too much. Colorism doesn't exist. This come from a dark-skinned black man who told me that he was affected by racism in school. Because of the color of your skin, bruh. Anyways, but he told me I'm making up colorism. But like I said, he don't have not one dark-skinned black woman in his life. And every single one that's been in his life besides me let him down. You see what I'm saying? Like, don't try to play like y'all haven't been hurt. Don't try to play like y'all haven't been hurt.
That's
And that you're
self-hate.
taking it out
Hmm.
on the women that you think you can get away with it on.
Right. That's self-hate if you ask me. That's
Yeah.
completely self-hate. And the bottom line is that these black men who decide that they don't want to date black women, they have issues. And I met a girl, just really quick. I met a girl at a bar one day. She was Pakistani and her boyfriend was Nigerian. And at the time my boyfriend was Nigerian. And we were talking and she was like, I don't date black guys who don't date black women. And I felt like, like a non-black woman actually said that out her mouth. Like, oh, wow. She's like, yeah, I think black guys who don't date black women have issues. So when I get with a black guy, me being a non-black woman, I have to ask, who are your black girlfriends? And if he says he has had none or the last 5 has not been black, I do not date him. And I was like, girl, I need you on my show.
Right.
So
Yes.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I like when people can, be real about things like that.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I have friends that date interracially, and they're my friends because there's respect for the culture and the people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not an expectation that because I'm a white woman, I'm to be exalted in this space. They really be coming to the table with that mentality because these conversations that they be having with these brothers where they can call them the N-word. And you'll hear even the black scent flipping off and on. I've heard some women, I had no idea they had a black scent. I'm like, what? Because they talking to a black
Right.
man. Now all of a sudden they have a black scent.
Black scent. Right.
That's disrespectful and disgusting. And as a
Right.
black man, how do you tolerate that? My husband has the same voice he's had the first day of his life. That's what he sounds like. It ain't never changed.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
Mhm.
I would
Yeah.
not allow anyone to disrespect and offend me in my space by putting on such a show. But I feel
Right.
like oftentimes they need these women to behave that way so that they can justify being around oftentimes women that they have little in common with.
Right. Yeah. And
Just being honest.
those are the women who are willing to pretty much kiss ass. Like, and I'm not saying black women are not willing to kiss ass. Like, I think the bottom line is we want to be submissive to guys who deserve submission. And so I feel like certain other people, and I don't mean to like judge them just blatantly, like they're just willing to be submissive to any walking male, and I'm not.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
Without a doubt, men have shown time and time again that they like women they can take advantage of.
Yeah.
All men. All men. Because I've gotten a lot of creeps of all different ethnicities and races,
Yeah.
you know, being very entitled to, okay, you're a woman and I'm talking to you, let me send you a pic.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, I want to see your, we were talking about a topic. I've had dudes go ballistic on me and I'm like, I know you know that I'm married. Like, I say it every other sentence. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what are you going ballistic on me? Like, I'm supposed to be communicating with you 24/7. This is social media. Like, you know what I'm saying? But like the entitlement, you know, and of course for me, that's a block. And I, you know, you get blocked and I never see you again because I don't have time for creeps. That's one thing I won't do ever. But yeah, we're on the last 2 minutes. So wrapping this up, there's so much more I want to talk to you about. But like I said, I know we'll definitely speak again. But is there anything that you'd like to say finishing it off?
Honestly, the only thing that I can say is that I do want to have more conversations with you like this. I actually think you should call me after, like just for a brief second.
Oh yeah,
But
sure, yeah.
I think that like conversations like this are really, really complex. And I think that the only way in which like we can really be progressive in our society is if in our society, if like Black people, we have to start within. I feel like I think that if we like are really willing to face the rooted racism and tackle it from all areas and really teach that. And I think that obviously these conversations, they really do need to be viewed, because if they're not, people are just walking around in bubbles. And I really hope that like at some point we are back to 1960s Black Panther era, like, you know, like that mindset. Like that's really where I want to be. And I feel like I hope that we get there one day with these conversations. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I definitely agree. All right, so we're out of time. Hello and goodbye to everyone in the chat room. Thank you, Qadirah, so much for joining us. I'll be back with another What's Hannenin very soon. All right, see you guys later. Bye.
Later.